Out to Barclays Center we go. Michael Scotto takes us around the NBA. He covers the Nets for The Athletic. Michael, let's start with the big news yesterday with Spencer Dinwiddie getting a guaranteed extension here. Why did the Nets choose to keep him on the roster rather than looking to free up that cap space?
Well, Jared, when you look at Spencer Dinwiddie, he's a guy that's embodied everything that the Brooklyn Nets culture is about in terms of developing players. They got him at a pretty good deal, too, in my opinion. 3 years, $34 million. Yes, he has the player option in year 3. The one thing I would say about that is there was fear that if Spencer Dinwiddie hit the unrestricted free agency market, teams such as Phoenix, Orlando, etc., they needed a point guard, could make a push for him to get more money. There's some executives I've spoken to around the league that felt annually per year he could make somewhere in the neighborhood of $12 to $15 million a year. But he loves Brooklyn. He has an 8-month-old son, and he wanted the security and to kind of finish what he started. And he bets on himself. He can go back into free agency when he's 28.
All right, well, let's talk about what the Nets may look to do from here on out as the unofficial trade season gets underway this weekend here. Do you see the Nets as buyers or sellers now through the trade deadline? And what are they setting up to do ultimately this summer with all this cap space that they're going to have to offer up?
Sure. Well, when you say buyers or sellers, you know, it's interesting. When they were going through that 8-game losing streak, I think you could certainly say that they were heading towards that seller spot. However, they're only 2.5 games back of the 8th seed right now. Their goal is to make the playoffs. Kenny Atkinson has called the phrase tanking, quote, taboo. They're not going to do that. They want to try to make the playoffs, improve on the 28 wins that they had last year to attract those said free agents that you talked about. Now, if they slide where they were towards that 8-game losing streak, you could see some possible trade talks with some veterans they have on their bench, such as an Ed Davis, who's in a short-term contract with Shabazz Napier. They could land some second-round picks if they put them out there on the market. You also have the restricted free agency of D'Angelo Russell and Rondae Hollis-Jefferson coming up. Some players that they could look to towards free agency. One in particular that sticks out to me is a local guy, a Long Island native, Tobias Harris. He's a 4 that I think would help them in terms of shooting the ball, in terms of getting to the lane as a playmaker and a scorer for this team. And they've desperately tried to find guys that fit the culture of the team. And if anybody knows Tobias Harris, knows his father, Terrell, his agent, they're very faithful people to God, and he's a very good kid. You're not going to see this guy out at a club at, say, 3 o'clock in the morning. So he fits that culture off the court as well as his basketball skills on the court that could translate well for Brooklyn. And I would expect them to at least have an eye on him, certainly, come the free agent market in the summer of 2019.
Shout out Half Hollow Hills West. Michael Scotto, The Athletic, covering the Nets for us tonight at Barclays Center. Meanwhile, hottest team